Well, uh, ladies and gentlemen, this is quite a night for the Callbeck family and for the Bedeque Area Historical Museum. We anticipated this level of interest a couple of weeks ago, and with all the publicity we've given the night, we have an overflow room which has, I don't know, 60 chairs in it, and it's filling up as well. And people are still coming in, but we're going to start. Oh yes, you can see the overflow room there. Yeah. They can't see, well, I don't know if they can they see us here? Yeah. Wave, okay. Wave at them and they'll wave back. Yeah. I won't tell you where they are because this huge, it's like a warren, a big building, and they're in a strange room and they need direction to get to it. Well, and to get out of it. My name is Douglas Sobey, Doug Sobey. I'm the president of the Bedeque Area Historical Society, and I want to welcome you all tonight to this very special event. I want to welcome especially the members of the Callbeck family, Bill Callbeck and Helen, his wife, and Catherine Callbeck, the Honourable Catherine Callbeck, who are sitting at the front and whom you saw earlier when you came in. We have some special guests who've come this evening. They are Bobby Morrissey, the Member of Parliament for Egmont, and we are now part of Egmont. Robert Mitchell, who is a former minister in the Prince Edward Island government and a candidate for the leadership of a political party, and I'm not sure which party. You'll have, hi, yeah, but I've been living too long out of the country, so I apologize for that. And Dr. Wendy Rogers, the president of the University of Prince Edward Island, is here. Welcome, Wendy, this evening. And of course, Catherine recently retired as the chancellor of the university. We are expecting also Matt McFarland, but is Matt here yet? Not. I welcome our special guests, and I welcome you all. I want to say a few things about just catching up on my notes here. I've been at the door doing other things. I want to thank the organizers of this event, and Valerie Curtis in particular, who is going to be leading. Valerie's standing against the wall here, leading the evening. And so you'll hear a lot from Valerie later. She spent quite a bit of time on this over the winter period. And Bill and Catherine have been especially involved in the organization of the activity and have contributed greatly to various aspects of it, which you will see later this evening. Also, Don Reed is Don in the room? He may be in the upper room, I'm not sure. But Don has been actively involved in the organization of the evening. And I hope that at the end of this evening, you will say it was worth the drive, which is the slogan that the Callbecks Store used for many, many years. And I know many of you have come from a considerable distance. Just to mention some sort of safety procedures, if for any reason we have to evacuate the building, the door here, it is possible to go out the back door, but this is the main door, and you can go straight out through Baba's kitchen directly, or in the direction along the corridor, it leads to an exit as well. And the people in the room upstairs will just go into the hallway and you'll see an exit sign which directs you to back stairs. The washrooms are just here on the right of the room, and Upstairs, there are also washrooms upstairs along the corridor. I think that is everything I want to say in the way of general introduction. I'm going to turn it over to Valerie, who's going to lead the rest of the evening. So thank you very much again for coming. I'll say a few words at the end. By the way, I just want to mention we have raffle tickets for sale. You've seen them advertised. And we have a ticket desk here with Nancy on it, and also upstairs. Raffle tickets, and we have copies of the Callbeck book, which was written in 2014 by the late Boyd Beck, and we're offering them, as you saw on the screen, and as you see there now, at a reduced price. So if you haven't got that book already, it is a chance to buy it. So thank you very much.
Sure if this is the right height. I'm going to bring her down a little bit. This is a really special evening, and we're so pleased to see you come and celebrate not only the Callbecks Store, but the Callbeck family, who carried on the enterprise here for many, many years. Their family and 2 generations before them. So definitely a family that has had a lot of impact on our community. So we are going to, this evening, look at a time when the merchant, the Callbecks, generally knew the customer, and the customer generally knew the merchant, which made shopping a whole different experience than when you walk in today to a Home Depot or whatever. They might say, "What can I do for you?" But then you wonder, do they mean it? And this was the day when they really meant it. We're going to look at those times. So I want a brief slideshow here first, and we're waiting for the rest of our panel members, so this might be a good time to do it. We've put them all to work. They're probably wondering what they got themselves in for here. They're coming. I don't want to introduce until they're all here. So we'll do the slideshow first. All right, here we go. So it all started with William, which most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with. And he started the store in 1899. And on we go. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because it's about the panel and the questions tonight. So there's William's family. And of course, the old tailor shop that was begun before the store. I tried to find some pictures that weren't in the Callbeck's book, so some of these hopefully you haven't seen. I like this winter scene, yeah. Give you, obviously taken to show the snow, but you also see the building in a different little light. Buildings, I should say. And moving on to 1940, it went through a lot of renovations and additions. Here we are, 1968. And there we have the grocery store. What is this, AVZ? And when Leon's moved in there, I thought this was a neat shot because it gives you a view of the buildings as they were added on. Because you walk in there today and you have no idea how this thing grew. It was definitely an evolution of a building. And there it is when it was finished. And we didn't want to leave the warehouses, the lumber yard across the road. This is after closing. I like this shot of Ralph and John Stewart. Kind of gives you a glimpse of the personalities that shaped the company. And this one, and it kind of speaks for itself, sorry. We can read there, Louise, Alice, Ralph, Mildred, Arthur Murray, Alaric Glanton, A.E. Wright. And it was definitely taken during wartime. I don't know if you can see the details on the back, on the windows, but it's kind of a neat shot. There's Ralph with the gas pumps. another winter scene. And the young Bill Callbeck. Nice shot of him. And Mildred. I really enjoyed looking at these office scenes, how offices have changed. Lots of paperwork. Catherine. And Ruth and John. And Arnold. His desk looks tidier. Did less work? I doubt it. Right. And Clifford. Busy spot. I think you can tell that's a 70s picture. 70s or 80s by the style. And Ernest. Ernie Lant. And Josie at the cash and her daughter. I want to get one of Susan in there. And then to the washing machines. It was mentioned to me that really was a big seller. It was a big deal. A little bit of the sales slips from the earlier sales slips. And we're going to talk about Santa Claus at the Callbecks tonight. And then when the store moved into furniture, there's the furniture. Moving on. I'll bet a lot of you in the room have furniture still from the Callbecks Store. At the post office, I mentioned that. And the rink sales. We'll talk about those tonight. What a big deal they were. Yeah, look at the crowd. Yeah. And that's the traffic for the rink sale there. Yeah. I think that's my last. No, it's not my last one. Moving into Summerside. Yeah. The grand opening. Bill there. Cutting the ribbon with them. I like this picture. We're going to talk about the way the Callbecks cared for their staff, and I really like this picture because I think it really shows just the rapport between Bill and all his staff. Okay, now that is the last one. I'm pretty sure we're back on the loop. Yeah. All right. On the lights. Okay. Jennifer, oh, you're moving around. That's fine. That's fine. We finally now have our full complement of panel, so I can introduce them. All right. So we have Jennifer and Lynn Callbeck. They can wave at you. Jennifer's on the far right. You're right. And Lynn on the left. And they worked. Well, they're going to share some of their early memories as little girls, which are kind of fun. And then they worked part-time as teenagers at the store. And then they moved on to their own careers. So Jennifer, you are in advertising and marketing. And Lynn is with
Retired Scotiabank.
Retired Scotiabank Investment. Yeah, we got to get our mic going. Yeah, get your mics going. This is the time to get the mics going. Okay. All right. Then we have Ivan Glant. And Ivan is a longtime employee with Callbecks and still employed with Callbecks. Yes. Nearly 45 years. And I don't think he's even thinking about retirement. Not yet. Still managing the plumbing department there. And we have Linda McCardle over here. Wave, Linda. And she also, well, I might as well say the rest of the panel are all longtime employees of the Callbecks. Linda retired after 45 years, just recently retired. 40 years. She's supervising hardware and plumbing departments. And then we have John Inglis. in the middle there. And John, you worked for about 45 years too?
A little over 43. So
43. Well, I'm close. All right. I'm getting this from secondhand sources.
anything over 40 is all good.
Okay. All righty. So we're just going to jump into the question time. So this is going to be fairly informal. I have questions just to make sure things keep moving, but it's more if we can get stories and conversation going amongst our panel, that's what we want, right? That's just, I told them, forget anybody's listening, just enjoy yourself. So that's what we're going to try and do. So Jennifer and Lynn, we're going to start with you. When I interviewed you, you had some really fun stories to tell about your memories as girls. So maybe you can just share some of those that you shared with me.
I'm not used to talking into mic. I guess some of the stuff we were remembering was Christmas time. Coming over for, it was a big deal when Santa Claus came. Mom making sure that whatever was, I don't know, whenever Santa was coming, that whatever she'd given us for lunch or supper, that we had to eat it. If we didn't eat it, we didn't see Santa Claus. She probably...
Tell her about the peas.
Oh, and yeah, there was one, well, I don't know if she liked me telling this, but John hated peas, and he hid them in his sock. And I told on him, because I didn't think it was fair that I had to eat the peas. And Mom made him take the peas out of his sock and eat them. So that we But other memories are coming over here. It was always fun to come over here. I felt like even as memories that I have as a little person that I knew knew everyone. Leo Smith, he used to tease us a lot.
Bob Reed used to always say he'd greet all the women with young lady.
Young lady.
And everybody fell in love with Bob.
Yeah.
And Dad used to come on Sundays and work, and it was a big outing for us because we were allowed to come, and we had the run of the store, and we could play hide and seek. And it was pretty fun to be able to hide in a bathtub.
Yeah.
So we thought that was pretty cool to be able to do those things. I have memories of coming to the store, and the windows that are still downstairs where the Callbeck display is in front of, I can remember there was a door on the side, and I used to run in, and I have a memory of looking to the right, and Aunt Mildred, exactly as you saw that picture, would be sitting there at her desk, and she always had treats or whatever, I think, and she was always there, and she was always laughing.
Yeah. And even my grandfather, I probably coming over, but just being, seeing like you're not very tall, and this big person just being there. Yeah. But no, it was lots of fun.
Okay. Thank you. Fun to listen to. Okay, so knowing how much the management of the store would have taken for your dad, did you see much of him? Did you come over here while he was working? You referred to some Sundays here with your dad.
Coming on Sunday, Dad worked a lot. There's lots of times the store was closed, and people would call and say, "Billy, can I get this? Billy, can I get?" And he always came. Mm-hmm. But I never felt like that he was there.
Yeah. He was busy, but he was always present.
Yeah.
Good. All right, let's talk about some first days at work. Ivan, you had some great stories.
Oh, yeah. So I remember when I come into work for my first day, I went back to Bill's office, and he said, "All right, let's go up to the front of the store, up the hardware." And he said, "Go into the little cubby hole and get some paper towel and some Windex." So I come out, and he said, "We're going to take all the power tools off the bottom shelf here And back in those days, Black & Decker's power tools were green, orange, and gold for good, better, and best. And so he said, we're going to take all these tools off and we're going to dust the shelves. And he got on his hands and knees before I did and started to work. And he instilled a work ethic in me. And we were down there for about an hour doing all of that. You know, so I mean, I still remember that to this day. You know, if he could get down on his hands and knees and dust the shelves off, there'd be no reason why I couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
And then later on that morning, this was the highlight of the day, Bobby Reed asked me to help him dig out a roll of carpet. And this roll of carpet was on the bottom of this great big pile of carpet that was probably about 10 feet tall. And he got this big steel pipe stuck inside the middle of the roll of this carpet. And he says, Ivan, why don't you go around to the backside and see if you can reach in and grab the pipe to pull it out? Because we had this machine that grabbed onto the pipe to lift the carpet out from underneath the mountain of carpets that were on top of it. So I get back there, and of course, back in that corner, with all the carpet that was in there, it was almost like soundproofing. And he was yelling at me that he had gotten the pipe free. But I was looking in the hole in this carpet, and all of a sudden this pipe comes flying out of the roll of the carpet. It got me right over the top of the eye. It knocked me down on the floor. It was only about 2 feet between the wall and the carpet where I was, and I was kind of stuck in there. And I got up, and the blood was running down my face. And Bob felt so bad. I went into Summerside and got some stitches, and I came back. And when I got back, he sat me down in the office and says, Ivan, you sit there for an hour. I don't want you to do nothing. That was my first day.
Oh, dear. All right. I was chatting with Ron Rayner, too, and he was saying that he remembers scrubbing floors with Bill. So, yeah. He's saying that Bill got down and scraped gum off the floor. It wasn't anything Bill couldn't do. Okay, how about wages? Linda, do you remember what your wages were when you started?
Not a clue.
Not a clue. Oh, okay, hand them. How about your first day?
My first day was at the Callbecks yard sale.
Okay.
First time I walked in there and seen all the stuff, and then I got there early, and we were packing everything up and lining it up, and then it was time to open the doors. So Bill says, Linda, you go down there and open that door. Well, I didn't know any better. I went down there, and there had to have been 200 people out there waiting to get in. And at those days, the first one in got the best deal. So I unlocked the door, and then the other door swung open. I was up against the wall. And that's where I stood for the first 5-10 minutes of the sale. That was my memory.
That's a way to start. John?
What, first day?
Yeah, do you have any memories of that?
Well, I remember the job interview that I had with Catherine. And I guess how I ended up here is Justin Lawless here. Did I see they here? Is Justin upstairs? But anyway, Justin had left the company, and that's I guess how a job became available. And I guess I had went to school for a couple of years and ended up at Justin Foods in Moncton, and I just wanted to come home. So decided I was coming back to the island. I could have stayed there and so on, but anyway. So probably one of the few times I ever drawn unemployment in my life. So I was drawing unemployment, so of course I got a call from Manpower or whatever it was called in them days, and come in for the interview. And so I can remember, very clearly, I hadn't had a lot of job interviews, and Catherine had asked me some questions. I had somebody, I think, that I had given as a reference and so on. So I think it was just before the rink sale, I think, was coming up, and that was also to it. So anyways, so I did that. So I went home, and by the time I got home, I guess the phone call came to my mother, and she said, sure would like to hire you, and that type of thing. So I guess it was probably the next day I had showed up. And I can remember coming in the front door. And actually, I don't know if Ronnie remembers this or not, but the first person I seen at the door was Ronnie. And I don't know if you remember in them days, you went in and the carpet department was just booming in the morning, right? Because all the carpet layers were in there and they were cutting carpet. And this thing that Ivan was talking about was, I never seen anything like that. It's too bad you didn't have some pictures of that. It was just this big mound of carpet, and then this machine that went over top of it, and then you had to get in underneath it with this pole that he was talking about, and the weight of it, and you would be pulling it up and so on and so forth. But anyway, I come in the door there, and it was early, and Ron looks at me, and he's busy as heck, and he's, "You're the new receiver general," he said. so I said, "Yeah, I guess that's it." So I was working 2 days a week in carpet, and I was to be 3 days a week up in the furniture department. So again, I looked around and really didn't know what was going on, but I seen people spreading dustbane down and grabbing mops and so on and so forth. So it wasn't too hard to figure out what I was, supposed to be doing. When in Rome, you do as the Romans do, and so I guess what I'm saying there was a work ethic, right? There was kind of a team atmosphere and a work ethic that you seen right away, and then that soon led to I remember then we get into the sale over there at the tent sale and so on, and it was really busy. And you were talking, Linda, about the stress of seeing this crowd the first time and so on. So anyways, I guess I was probably a little stressed out seeing that many people all at once as well and so on. So, and I remember Cliff was I got to know Cliff a little bit, and so he could see that I was perhaps a little excited about trying to get everything done and what was going on and so on and so forth. So I always remember him telling me this because he had a great sense of humor. He said, "John," he says, here's what you do. He says, if you're in a bad situation here, or you're something you can't handle or whatever, he says, and you went down every avenue that you can to solve it and so on and so forth. He says, and there's just, no way you can go anywhere else. He says, just panic. And I didn't really know what he meant by that, but I think a little while later, whether it was years or not, I figured out what he was trying to tell me. And he was going to say, all you can do is the best you can do, right? So put the best effort you can in, and then at that point, because panicking silly, but that's the way he left it. He said, you might as well just panic. So that's a fond memory to have a Cliff. Yeah.
Thanks. We'll get back to you. One of the things I wanted to mention was Ron. I talked to Ron McDonald here, and he said he started at Callbecks for $1 an hour. Correct. So, yep. And you passed up a job at Campbell and Burns for $1.40 an hour. I'm sure there's no regrets on that.
Well, I had worked that summer at Campbell and Burns and it was $1.40. And speaking of job interviews, my job interview was Bill called the house and said, "Would you like a job?" And that was it. But it was $1 an hour, and I debated because I thought, well, no, I can make $1.40 at Campbell and Burns. But then my analytical brain took over and said, but I can't work all through the winter and weekends and so forth at Campbell and Burns, but I can work Fridays and Saturdays and probably a Friday night at Callbecks. So that's how it began.
That was just the beginning. Yeah. Thanks, Ron. Appreciate that. Let's talk about some of the staff. So someone has commented that Bill, we'll start with Bill, was always in high gear. That was the description. Anyone got any stories or comments on that? Follow up Bill in high gear.
That first year I was hired, I can remember Bill on more than one occasion, and he's a fairly tall man, and he was moving at a fairly high velocity. And he had a pair of bolt cutters in his hand. And this was not the first time I seen that happening. And I think every once in a while, someone would lose the keys to the padlocks at a building he wanted to get in. So that is one of the memories of I can remember being in high gear. And perhaps when that particular type of situation was going on, everybody just kind of didn't rush over to him, perhaps for 2 or 3 minutes.
All right.
I remember the rink sales, and no matter how much preparation we did, how much prepping we did, the cash registers always stopped working the first day. You could guarantee it. And man, did Dad hit the ceiling when that happened. And it didn't matter what we did, it just always happened. And I remember Donnie always trying to calm him down, saying, we got it under control, we'll handle it, don't worry, Bill. But every time, something would happen, don't you remember? And the cash register stopped. Yeah.
I have a story. It's but it was from Wayne Linkletter. Told me Sunday when I was talking to him. His earliest memory of Dad. He's in the store, and he said it instilled a work ethic in him at his business, Linkletter Welding. But the store was very busy. The phone was ringing off the hook. There's all kinds of people around the cash, and the phone kept ringing and ringing, and nobody was answering it. And Dad came barreling back up front from the back office, and he grabbed the phone. He reached over everyone and he grabbed the phone, and he said, when that phone rings, you answer it. That's a customer on the other end of the line wanting to do business, so no more than 3 rings. And Wayne said he does the same thing.
Wow, wow, yeah. Care of customer. It was their prime concern, really, the customers, what drove their business. Okay, what about Clifford McCourt? Any stories on Clifford? Or just memories? Someone mentioned that he always, of course, asked, have you smiled today? Did that ever irritate you?
One of my fondest memory of Clifford is the fact that Bill used to always want us to clean the floors. When we went to the new store, that was the first thing that we had to do. Every morning. Clifford would lead the pack with his broom, and we'd have to follow. And we'd go up and down the aisles. The other memory I have of Clifford, I have lots of them, but I can't explain some of them. But the one was when we got ourselves a brand new boom truck. Brand new, spanking new. They parked it in the backyard, and this was in the store in Summerside. And everybody was told by Clifford, don't touch it, because it was all electronics, make the boom come up and come down. So after everybody went home, Clifford decided, well, I should go out and check out that boom truck. So he went out. He said, well, it can't be that difficult. He picked up the boom and then smashed it right down the cab of the truck. The first day. Brand new truck.
Yeah.
My memory of Clifford is I'm at the Christmas parties that we used to have. Boy, could he ever boogie on the floor. He could dance, boy. That's one of the memories of Clifford that I have, yeah.
That's memory. All right.
You have anything on Clifford?
All right, well, we'll keep going. I have just different names that have been brought up, like Arnold Henderson, Bob Reed, Alir Gallant, Austin McDonald, Garth Wright, Gary Toole. If that jogs any, probably jogs a lot of people's memories when you hear those names. Anyway, maybe you can, if you have, maybe you just need to think about it. That's all right. All right, let's keep going then. Could any of you describe how the customer order forms worked before the computer system was brought into the store? I have a quote that tracking and tabulating those forms was, quote, exhausting work. So does anyone want to explain to our audience how that worked?
So I remember on order day, everything was done manually, unlike today, everything's electronic and digital and through a computer. But we used to write down the product numbers by hand, and we used to write down the quantities that we would want to order. And then Gary Toole would sit down, and with this little machine, he would punch in the numbers, all the numbers, and try not to make a mistake. And then when he was done, he had this cradle for the phone that he would sit down, and then he would press a button, and we would just hope that that signal went out to home hardware like a data signal, just all the little beeps and blips and all of that stuff, and that's how we used to do the orders back in the day. It was very time-consuming and tedious. Yeah, but that was the norm, yeah, and we did that, I think, once a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And part of your job, Ivan, was to receive the order. And we worked in the basement in the plumbing department. And there was one set of stairs, 15, 20 steps going up. And then that was the hardware floor. And then there was another set of stairs going up to the 3rd floor. So Ivan's job was to unload the truck with these little, what was it? Roller wheels. And then he'd have to ticket it. Then his job was to throw it on the stairs. And all days, different days, you'd see merchandise.
6 or 7 people.
Upstairs.
Get the mic there. Can you get the mic, Ivan?
So, yes, once the order started coming out onto the floor, we would get a group of people on the stairs, and we would just throw items one at a time to the next person until it got, like a chain, yeah, until it got to the 1st floor. And if it was going to dry goods on the 3rd floor, we'd have to lug it to the bottom of the stairs, you know, to the next floor, and we do the same thing to throw it all up the stairs. I mean, we sure don't miss the stairs in Summerside, let me tell you, because that was a chore. That was a chore. But I mean, that's the way we operated. Yeah.
Pretty labor intensive.
Boy, was it ever.
Yeah, yeah. All right, do you have any customers that you have stories about? Any regular customers or customers that had stand out?
Oh, Linda has something.
I don't remember the customer's name.
That may be a good
But
thing.
That's good. But this person decided that they wanted to buy a TV. And so he was walking around the store and he figured out, okay, I'll buy this TV right here. So we picked it up and he was heading towards the door. And Bill came along, trotting along. Oh, let me get that door for you. Opens the door. And the guy goes down, oh, I'll open the door for your car. So opens the trunk, whatever. They put the TV in there. So that was all right. Bill comes back in the store. That's a nice sale. Who sold that TV? Did you sell that TV? No. The guy, Bill helped the guy steal a TV. And whenever, after he realized what he did, and then he realized, well, isn't there a serial number on the back of those TVs? And at that time, we didn't write them down. He came from the hardware, hit the basement, I think in 3 steps, and there was at least 15 steps, and that's the way he ran down those stairs. Then there was another place in the basement that we used to call the hole, and that's where we kept the TVs. So he took every one of those TVs up the stairs, like only 4 steps at a time. And he went up and he recorded everything. No way again was somebody going to steal a TV.
Good story. All right. Let's go to the rink sales. We did cover them a little bit. I know there was a lot of prep for the rink sales. Anyone want to talk on that?
Well, we're talking a lot about the hardware department, but there was a ton of work. We were talking about taking things and carrying them. Back in them days, there was a lot of heavy sofa beds and mattresses and so on and so forth. And when I again first hired on, of course, you did a number of things. That was part of the work ethic. If there was a job to be done, you took it on and did it. But I worked, a name that hasn't come up yet is Ralph Arsenault. And Ralph was a long-time employee with the company. And I really didn't work in the hardware part of it so much in the Bedeque days. It was till after I get into Summerside that I went that direction. But you know, in all seriousness, talking about work ethic is I worked a long time with that man, and he had a tremendous work ethic. And you had to pull your weight, and he would tell you if you didn't, but him and I never really had that problem. But I can remember sometimes we would get maybe a student or someone would come in new, and Ralph he'd be kind of watching them for maybe a few days or something, seeing if they were pulling their weight and stuff. And Ralph would have his own ways of maybe letting letting somebody know with a little bit of humor or something that maybe they needed to pick their game up or whatever. And I remember one instance that there was a young fellow standing there, and we were unloading a big truck and moving, and he was kind of just not realizing what he should be doing. And anyway, perhaps Ralph was tired. And he kind of looked at him, and he come back, and I don't you have to know Ralph, but he kind of get up in front of you, and he said, you know, young fella, he says, I don't mind you not helping, he said. But he said, you know, could you get the heck out of the way? So Ralph had many sayings and many things that he said that stuck with me over the years, and he, you know, he got his message across. He didn't do it in an evil way or anything, but I think the young man got the message that, you know, he needed to pitch in and help maybe. So.
Yeah.
I found over the years one of the main things that probably the Callbecks were renowned for is that the customer was always the boss. Didn't matter. I mean, if it was going to incur a cost that would cost the company. It didn't matter. If the customer wanted something, service was the utmost, and respect was also in the same realm. And John talking about Ralph ultimately led from Bill and Catherine in terms of how he represented himself and the company with all of the staff. And in frustration, though, sometimes Ralph would get so to the point that he would say, you know what, I wish I was a millionaire's dog.
That's right. Yeah, that was one of the sayings.
And that was the tune that Ralph. But in terms of the customer service and the respect, I mean, it was 110%. And I remember times where, you know, I would say judge a customer complaint and say, well, you know what? In my opinion, the customer's wrong. Doesn't matter, Donnie. You look after that customer and replace whatever it was they're complaining about, or look after and service the complaint and make sure that the customer at the end of the day is satisfied with our service.
Yeah, no, and I would agree, Donnie. That's one thing that you learned right from the beginning is it was from Bill and Catherine, set the work ethic and how the customer should be treated, and then that filtered down without a doubt to, you know, in the furniture department, people like, you know, Edna and Rowena and you know, all the folks that worked up there. And, you know, I can remember as a young man, you know, that's what I learned. You needed to look after that customer, and you did what you needed to do to do that. And, you know, there was a lot to be learned from.
My formulation, John, I totally agree, because my formulation of how the staff really did, we were a big family, and the whole element was all about family and the respect for family. But we all followed that golden rule that do unto others as you would do unto yourself. And ultimately, you know, because of the Callbecks instilling that in us, that's why I think most of the staff have stayed with the company and lived with the family for all these years. It's just that's the way we followed as a family.
Yep, absolutely.
So a few months ago, Paul Arsenault, he's at the back of the room here, he had checked to see how many years the current staff that is working in the Summerside hardware store, not our furniture store, but just a hardware store. And what was that number again, Paul? Do you remember? 800. It was over 800 years of service of the staff that we presently have today. Right? So that's a big contribution to the Callbeck family.
That really reflects the Callbecks' care for their staff. It's definitely a big piece of the picture why they were successful. Yes. A couple more things I want to cover, and we'll pass the mic to our audience here. Wanted to cover Friday nights. Does anyone remember how busy it was? It was called a gathering place. Would you agree with that for the community? Anyone remember those nights? How busy was it? Does it get pretty crazy? Anyone have any memories of Friday night?
That number of 200 was probably low in comparison.
Okay.
I'll never forget, too, the time that we were having Santa Claus. Santa Claus was the biggest part probably of the year by far. And I forget who told me the story, but anyway, the story goes as Santa Claus was up on the 3rd floor in the dry goods department. And all at once, there was this big creak, crack noise. And Ralph ran to the stairs, and he said, "All the adults, come downstairs. Come downstairs." Anyways, the main beam had cracked. So, yeah, but I mean, that was the conscience.
I hope we can hear from Ron Rayner in a bit here. He was present. So we'll get that story. Jennifer.
Friday night for us in our household was a big thing because Mom went grocery shopping. And it was a big thing for us to be able to go to the store. In those days, there was a grocery store attached to the store. And we used to get our groceries there. And it was a highlight for us to be able to go grocery shopping with Mom, whether it was Clover Farms or IGA. There was a number of different grocery stores that we went through, and we always had fun grocery shopping. And I can remember our dog, Sammy. Some of you may have remembered Sam. He was a dog that was adopted by my brother. Brought him home, and we had talked about, I guess, I don't remember that, getting a dog, and he found Sammy in the village. Someone had left him, and he wanted to keep him, and he brought him home, and he was this dirty old dog in the living room on the rug, and he said, "Can I keep him?" And I was there, no, he's awful. But anyway, he became part of our family. He became Catherine's dog as well. He became the store dog. And anyway, when we used to go to the grocery store, Sammy used to come too, and Sammy would sit at the top, and he would wait for us because he knew he wasn't allowed to go into the grocery store. But he would wait until we got our groceries, and then we'd all go home.
I'm going to cover 2 more topics. We want to cover the credit, and we want to cover Christmas, and then we're going to open the mic up. Okay, so Ralph was well known for his generous spirit that certainly was seen in his approach to credit toward his customers. This carried on to the next generation of store management, and I quote a former employer about Bill. She said, "Bill was very tolerant of those in need of credit." Ron McDonald tells the story of his needing a bicycle for his paper route, and Bob Reed, another one, who thought like Bill, saw Ron eyeing up a new bike at the store and offered him a payment plan. Ron was only 14 at the time. So they arranged payment for that bike, which cost $33, so he could get onto his paper route. And he made a payment of $5 a week until the bike was paid for. And then Ron said, where could you go today where a 14-year-old could find credit like that? So, yeah. So just an idea of how they looked after their customers through credit when it was needed. They were there for them. All right, let's quickly cover Christmas. Toyland, Christmas, any memories on that one? No. All right, we might have to get that from the audience, because I know a lot of people, when I say, oh, we're going to talk about Callbecks Store, oh, I remember Toyland. It's funny, a lot of people, that's where they go. Okay, well, we thank you. Our panel, you want to give our panel a hand? Appreciate your stories. Okay, so we're going to have a roaming mic here, and somebody is going to operate it. Sure, Don, that would be great. Thank you. If any of you have a story, and try to keep your stories brief because we only have like 15 minutes for this segment, so, or a question for the panel, just raise your hand. And this goes for upstairs as well. I believe Dawn is covering upstairs, and maybe we can put the screen on of upstairs so we can be in sync with them. Oh, Dawn, you might have to move. We'll get the upstairs on here. Okay. Don Percy is offering. Percy, did you offer a story or a memory? We're going to bring the mic to you. Just wait a second or we won't be able to hear. He's right in the middle there. Just a second. Oops. Percy, can you give us your name and so we know who is speaking?
Percy Affleck. I live about 6 kilometers from here. And I'm a farm operator. And we practically lived at Callbecks when things started going sideways. And you needed help and lumber and all that sort of thing. And there's a couple of things that stuck out with me over the years is the quality of the employees that Callbeck has had. And on one occasion that I remember, I had come up to the lumber yard to get some 2x4s. And there was a truck already backed up to the warehouse getting 2x4s. And I believe it was Eli. Is he the guy that had the big, wore a fairly big round hat? Was putting 2x4s on the truck. And the guy was buying a lot of 2x4s. And the load supposedly was finished. And the guy that was making the purchase, he grabbed one more 2x4 and threw it on top of the load. And Eli grabbed the 2x4 and took it off and put it back in the building. And he says, "What is it to you?" He says, "If I take an extra 2x4. And Eli says, "I'll have you know," he said, "I worked for Callbecks, not against them."
That's a good story.
And I never forgot that. And then in 1976, our family was building a new barn after a hurricane destroyed the previous one. And I think we bought just about everything from Callbecks to build that barn. And we had reached the point where we were putting windows in place. And we had ordered them through Callbecks. And one evening about 8 o'clock, Bill Callbeck arrives with the truck with all our windows. And I assume the employees had already gone home. And Bill arrived at our farm and unloaded a truckload of windows in front of our construction project. And as a customer, I don't think we forget something like that.
Yeah, that's part of that customer
Yes.
care again. Yes, thank you, Percy. Do you have any other questions or how about upstairs? Anyone upstairs have a question or comment? Does anyone want to go to the mic upstairs with a question or comment? All good up there? All right. Pardon? Am I missing someone? Okay, Ron. We'll do Ron, and then we forgot a very important segment of our evening that we'll wrap up with.
Good evening, all. My name is Ron Rayner. I've been a resident of this community since the day I was born. And somebody said, "Have you lived here all your life?" And my answer is not yet. A couple of comments. Val had mentioned earlier about I worked for the grocery department back, I was only 13 or 14. And every Wednesday night, Bill Callbeck and I, we scrubbed the complete floor of the grocery department, and he did get down and scrape gum if there was gum in the road. But The main story that I have to tell you is the Santa Claus story, and this is true. This would be 56, perhaps 57. It was before I was 20. I still believed in Santa. And at that time, the 200 people, a small number, they were lined from the second floor, down the stairs, down the turn, through the hardware, and sometimes right to the door. The rule was every child had to be accompanied by an adult. I worked my way up, and it took an hour to get from the bottom of the steps to the top. And just as I got to the very top, Ralph come running. There was a huge crack, and Ralph come running up, and he said, "All the adults down, all the adults down." He said, "The carrying beam just broke. No adults, leave the kids." Great. I come from a poor family, and I had lined up what I wanted Santa to bring me, and worked my way up to Santa. And Santa at that time, a lot of you older people would remember Duke Nielsen, who used to be the drummer for the Don Messer Show. He was an absolute fantastic Santa, but he had the tendency to get a little inebriated at times. This was one of them times. I worked my way up to him, and there was a young fellow in front of me, and "Yes, little boy, what would you like?" "Well," he said, "I want a dump wagon." "Great, I'll have the elves build you a wagon," and blah, blah, blah. Come my turn. "What would you like?" All I could think of was that damn dump wagon. And I did not want that dump wagon. I got over, this was the first time I did any actual conniving, and I got over about 10, 15 feet, and I got looking back, and I said, "Now, how do I get back in that lineup and reorder what I wanted? Because I don't want that wagon." That bothered me right until Christmas Eve. About 3 years ago, yes, it'd be 3 years ago, Bill and I had made a tour of the ball field, a new ball field over there, and we come into the museum. And I told him that story, and he says, "Come with me." And we walked to where the stairs goes up to the second floor from the museum. He said, "That's the carrying beam." It had split about 15 feet from one end to the other, and that thing was 100 years old. So that just tells you how many people were standing at the top of the stairs up there.
Yeah.
So I got one more quick little story for you, and again, true. I never stretch the truth. Some people say I do. I was the very last paying customer at Callbecks Store, and that was called conniving. The night that they were closing at 5 o'clock, I went and I got some nails, some bolts, and some spikes and that sort of stuff. And I went over, and Laurie Montgomery was the clerk, and I had the bill all made, everything all done. And I said, "You just wait." And I watched the clock, and I watched the wall. And at 4:59:59, I said, "Hit the button." And that was the last bill of sale. There probably was a couple more upstairs, but legally, that was the very last bill of sale that was done at Callbecks Store.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Well, there are a lot more stories, I'm sure, in this room, but we'll have to wrap up. You can share afterwards. Oh, is there? Okay. Was that Dawn?
Valerie?
Yes.
Yeah, we have Don Jardine. He'd like to say a few words.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to take you back a previous generation. My grandmother was Ida Mae Johnson, and she lived in Knutsford, near O'Leary. So she was looking for a job. She was a seamstress. So I guess she found out that William Callbeck was looking for a seamstress in Bedeque. So she moved to Bedeque and worked in his tailor shop in 1915. And so she stayed working for the Callbecks. And then she married my grandfather, Brewer Johnson. And my mother was born across from Callbecks Store in the house there, I guess. So I guess, and my father married my mother, and so there's quite a connection to our family. And because of Callbecks Store, I guess perhaps I'm a descendant of that connection. So I just wanted to bring that up, that was a story that came through my family. And my grandmother was always proud to be connected to the Callbeck. She was a friend of all the Callbeck ladies, and Ruth, and she used to talk about them all the time. So they had a lasting impression on her and our family.
Item A is the cutout in the museum there. If you look at the Callbecks display, that would be who Don is talking about. So we're moving right along here, and we do still have an important segment. We'll wrap up with it because Catherine was going to share a brief survey of their store. Catherine.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. And I want to thank the Bedeque Museum for hosting this event. Tonight I want to share with you the story of the people who had the commitment and also the foresight to take advantage of opportunities, as well as the courage to take the risks to build our family business. Callbecks was founded by William Callbeck, who was the grandfather of Bill and myself. The Callbeck family lived in Shelton until tragedy struck. And the druggist that was providing William, the father, he took sick. The druggist that was providing the drugs for him was drunk at the time. And as a result, he wasn't able to work after that. So they had to move. They moved to a small house over on the lot where my home is. And actually, that small house is incorporated into the home I live in. Within a year after they moved up here, the father died. And young William was 10 years of age. He became the breadwinner for the mother and the two sisters. And there were no social services to turn to in those days. So the young boy worked at whatever he could find. Worked on the road. He helped make cheese in the Dunk River dairy. And then one day, Colin Wright, who owned the local store that was right on this lot and was incorporated into this building, came and asked him if he wanted a job, which he gladly accepted. So things went well until William wanted to marry. So he went and he asked Colin for a raise, and Colin said no. So William had the courage right then and there to say, okay, I quit, which he did. He went to Charlottetown, learned how to be a tailor, came back, opened a tailor shop, and at the height of the success of the tailor shop, he had roughly 15 people working for him. Now, as the late Island historian Boyd Beck said, and I quote, "There wasn't a business challenge William was not willing to take on," end of quote. So William ended up buying Colin Wright's store, and the first thing he did was take all the tobacco, took it outside to the back of the store, and he burnt it. He wasn't going to sell any tobacco in the store. And with time, he acquired a sawmill, 3 farms, all the while building the capacity of the store. He was also the secretary at the Dunk River Dairy, which was really a management position. So he managed Dunk River Dairy for 50 years. It was one of the best and one of the largest dairies in PEI. Now, William made his son, Ralph, who was the father of Bill and myself, the general manager of Callbecks at age 23. And our father wanted to concentrate on the retail sector. So he eventually got rid of the farms and the sawmill and so on. But our father, as I said, wanted to concentrate in the retail sector, and he made Callbecks Limited the largest country store in PEI. His aim was to have what people wanted, or what he thought they might want. when we were hearing all kinds of stories about television, before I ever came to PEI, our father sent an employee to St. John to learn about everything about TVs. So when TVs hit the island, Callbecks would be ready to not only sell them, but to fix them as well. Well, one of the first televisions on PEI was in this building right here, Callbecks Limited. He sold a lot of Canadian Tire product. He was offered the franchise. But in order to take the franchise, he had to give up selling groceries and other products. So he turned it down. We had a large egg grading station, which brought in a lot of people, and as well a post office, because then everybody was buying postage stamps and money orders and so on. Our father believed in building a relationship with his loyal customers, and he looked for unique ways to do that. For example, if somebody sold their logs to Callbeck's sawmill and they wanted cash, maybe they'd get 20 cents a board foot. 20 cents, I don't know whether that's realistic or not. But if they were willing to take a credit note to buy goods at Callbeck's, rather than getting 20 cents, they'd probably get 25. Now, he didn't spend a lot of money in advertising. Holman's was the big competition. They were the big department store then. And what Dad would do, when Holman's ran an ad in the paper, he would cut it out, put it up in the wall, take the marker, and every price, if Holman's were selling sugar at 10 pounds for 99 cents, that 99 would be a big stroke through it, and it would be 89 cents. So the public got to know that why would they go to Holman's to shop at their sale prices if they could get it cheaper at Callbeck's. He was very lenient on credit. We had a credit office, and people used to go there to get permission to buy goods. And sometimes they get refused. So generally what they do then is go to my father, who would lend them money out of his own personal money. Now, no doubt he got burned at times, but he built a large base of faithful customers. Now, had our father not died of cancer at the age of 62, 1967, there's no telling what direction he would have taken the business, along with his son, Bill. Now, as a child, Bill showed a real appetite for business. When he was just a kid, he saw an opportunity to make some money, because every day the grocery, they would chuck out the damaged pears or bananas or apples or whatnot. So he would come over with his cart, load them up, peddle them around the village. Now, the local pastor was not impressed. He told my mother, and Bill's business was quickly closed down. But it didn't discourage Bill. He worked part-time in weekends. He worked there in the summer, studied business at Prince of Wales, and he learned from our father. Joined the business 1952, worked his way up to general manager. He consistently sought out new opportunities and ways to serve islanders. It became a home hardware store, expanded to Rustico for a time. Bill made Callbecks Limited a one-stop shopping center. If someone wanted to build a house, They could buy all their building, their electrical, their plumbing supplies. They could decorate it and furnish it at Callbecks. They could buy their groceries, their hardware, their clothing, even have their hair cut and styled at the salon. If people wanted it, Bill made sure it was available. Under Bill's watch, sales increased tremendously, and he built on this building several times. The largest extension was 6,300 square feet on each of 2 floors. My first venture into business was selling lemonade at the side of the road, trying to get people to stop their cars and have a drink of lemonade. I did that for a few years in the summer, and then I started working at Callbecks at the age of 12. And I worked in the summers, and then some part-time work through the year. And then I worked for several years full-time. But I greatly appreciated that Bill was especially accommodating in allowing me to come back and forth to the business while pursuing so many other interests. Now, Bill faced difficult decisions in the business with world events, societal changes. They impacted the island's largest country store tremendously. The OPEC crisis increased gas prices greatly in the 70s, reduced our furniture business dramatically. Because of the higher prices, or the gas prices, people from a distance started to wonder, was Callbecks really worth the drive? Because, as has been said, that was our slogan at the time. So we bought an existing store in Charlottetown. Then we had the consolidation of farms, reduced our rural population. The closure of Campbell and Burns in 1986 was a severe blow to Callbecks. Bill saw the writing on the wall. It became apparent that Callbecks' survival was tied up in moving to Summerside. It was a painful process to remove the business from the community we love and which had served us well. But under his leadership, we opened the Summerside location on Water Street East in 1990. And eventually this building, which is so central to our community, was turned over to the Central Development Corporation for $1. Callbecks was a family business. Beside the people I've spoken about, there were many other Callbecks involved. Henry and Mildred, 2 of William's children, were there the longest. After our father's death, our mother took a bookkeeping course. She worked in the office, did the banking, till well into her 80s. Bill's wife, Helen, his daughters, Lynn and Jennifer, worked part-time at Callbecks, contributed greatly to the business. Bill and Helen's son, John, was being groomed to be the 4th generation Callbecks general manager when he was killed in a tragic accident in August 1995 at age 29. That was a great loss to the family. Bob Reed, a relative, was the only shareholder outside of the Callbeck family who worked in the business. He helped foster the business success. Callbecks would never have survived and prospered as a long-term business without the loyal staff. There were those who spent their entire working career at Callbecks. We were fortunate to have such dedicated and competent people, and we owe them our deepest gratitude. Many have passed away. I'm happy that there are some here this evening. And I would ask all former employees to stand, and I want everybody to give them a hand of applause. We could never have done it without you. But Callbecks Limited is no longer in Bedeque. Its story remains. We're proud that the Callbeck name is still a part of the island business community, and that's still a family business operated by the McDonald family. Thank you.
I can't really add anything to that. That was a great just condensation of the history of the store. And cannot be said about its impact on this community. And it made that impact by saying, what can I do for you? So maybe we can take that with us as we leave tonight and apply that to our own lives. What can I do for you? All right, so we're going to wrap it up. We have refreshments. Baba's has kindly set up for us over here a buffet. Sure you don't want to miss that. And we also have the mugs. I think Doug mentioned. Doug, did you mention those? Do you want to come mention those before we wrap up? Okay, right. We'll let Doug finish up here.
Well, that was quite an evening, and I learned quite a bit about Callbecks myself this evening, and I'm sure most of you did as well. I want to just make a few final announcements before wrapping up. We have, some of these are commercial announcements. We have a raffle. I'm sure you know that by the signs you've seen on the screen, for $450 of shellfish. The proceeds go to the support of the museum, and we thank Waddell's Fish Mart in Summerside for donating the first prize, $250 of a voucher for lobster or whatever other fish you like. And Future Seafoods of Fernwood have donated $125 worth of oysters. You don't have to eat all of the lobster, the $250 in one go. You get a voucher, so you can, and you can even save it till next summer if you don't live on Prince Edward Island. But the oysters, you have to down them all in one go. Or get enough people in to help you, because you get 100 prime oysters all at once. So it's appreciated if you can buy a raffle ticket, $5 or 3 for $10. The mugs, our attempt to fairly distribute the mugs failed in that you're carrying a card which says a certain number, but at the drawing system something failed. So the mugs are all out in the lobby, and those of you who already have a mug, please do not take one. But those, as you go by, if you haven't a mug, you can take one. Just a couple of other things. 2 weeks' time. Next week, our talk is by Don Jardine, who spoke this evening. Don is on the board of the Bedeque Area Historical Society, and he's a scientist, a scientific historian who studied the climate and weather on Prince Edward Island, all of the records that exist. And he's going to talk about the changing climate of Prince Edward Island since basically 10,000 years, but especially concentrating on the last century or two of written records. So come along at 7 o'clock. Come early. For the previous history talks, this room has been filled with 77 or 84 people, and we appreciate that we're drawing interest from all over. The following week, I will be giving the talk, and it is on time and the island, talking about how islanders in pioneer days kept a record of time when they didn't have a clock and when clocks came in, how did you set your clock when you had no neighbor who had the correct time near you? What did you do? And that sort of pioneer, and right up to the present, when daylight saving time came in the 1950s, I remember when Summerside had a different time from St. Eleanor's, where my grandparents lived. So we had to. So I'll be talking about things like that. What have I left? What have I left to say? I want again to thank all of the people who've participated, especially the Callbeck family, all the members of the family who have contributed, and all the members of the panel, and others in the audience who have asked questions or told stories. And Valerie as well for organizing a lot of the activity, and our sound people at the back, which is Pater Sound, who have done an excellent job in connecting the front, this room with the other room. We're almost living in a split society here, split rooms. So Elaine has prepared refreshments next door. There's tea and coffee. It's straight through into the Baba's kitchen. And you can pick up a mug as you go. We appreciate any donations that you wish to leave for the society. We don't charge for this evening. And by the way, the Callbeck exhibit has been revamped, done over completely with screens, touch screens, which contain a lot of information, which was covered by Catherine tonight in much more detail on the screens, and you can just touch those screens and you can follow the career of William Callbeck and Ralph Callbeck and the tailor's shop and so on. And early shopping right back to the 1890s. So have a look at that, not necessarily tonight, come back again. We're open until the end of August, and occasionally we will be in the winter. So I thank you all for coming. I think I'm not leaving anyone out, and I wish you a good rest of the evening. So thank you very much.